Just to touch on how we came up with the thumbnail for this video, it's an artist rendition of me at the age of 15 being a vendor at my very first comic book show. My father, grandfather, and uncle all own their own businesses. This inspired me to get into selling comic books. I remember how I first got started with buying comic books. I would go with my grandfather to the local stationery store on Sunday morning when he would buy his newspaper. By the newspaper stand, they had some comic books, and I was interested in the covers of the books. This was what got me started into collecting comic books. A few years later, as my interest continued in comic books, my aunt would take me to the local mall where they had a comic book store, and then I would buy my comic books there. After a few years of buying the comic books at the local mall, I found a place closer to home in a local flea market where there was someone there that was selling comic books at a booth. I was able to get a discount for the comic books. I believe at the time it was 20%, which enabled me to sell the comic books for a profit, and that was when I began doing shows. One of the common ways of storing comic books is in acid-free comic book boxes. Why you would want to go with one that is made specifically for a comic book is so they will protect the comic book better. Another thing that's a common practice that's highly recommended is to put comic books in special Mylar bags. These bags are made specifically also for comics. One thing at one time I was not that big into, but I have found more recently in collecting that I put especially more of my valuable books with what they call backer boards. These are acid-free backer boards, and they help keep the comic book a little bit sturdier and straight and prevent it from bending as much. Also, you want to keep your comic books in an environment that is climate controlled. The last place you want to leave your comic books would be in a basement or an attic. The reason being that moisture or humidity, mold, mildew, those are the enemy of a comic book. So the best thing would be to have them in a closet somewhere in your home, or possibly in a room in your home, to help preserve them, and that will prevent them from getting moisture damage and then also extreme heat or extreme cold. Good places to buy comic books, first of all, would probably be your local comic book store. Local comic book stores are places that you could go and you could get advice, and you could talk to people that work there. Sometimes you could even talk to other collectors that are in the store. In this day and age, a lot of people buy comic books online through Facebook groups, through places like eBay, through online websites. And another great way to learn more and have some fun with comic books are things that are called comic book shows or conventions. This year in 2023, there are 3 conventions that I'm going to highlight. One is the largest in the world, which takes place in Tokyo, Japan. They get an average of 500,000 people that attend. The 2 biggest comic book conventions in America are the San Diego, California show. This show typically has around 165,000 attendees. This show will take place from July 19th through July 22nd. Another big show in the United States takes place in New York City, the New York Comic Con. That takes place from October 12th through October 15th. Tell me about your comic book journey in the comments below. In future videos, we'll be talking about going from things like the novice to a more serious collector, getting involved with things like grading, what is involved with becoming a reseller. I'll try to cover all aspects of the hobby. Let's do it again soon.